Hello, YouTube. Hello, how are you today? Today I'm going to talk about aliens, and by aliens I'm meaning people from or beings from somewhere outside of Earth. Now, with all my videos, I like to start with facts before I talk about fiction. Well, I shouldn't say fiction, but theories and ideas about my opinion about things. Now, in this case, it's difficult to get facts, so I'm just going to talk about my personal experience. Now, first off, you asked the question, have I ever seen an alien? The answer is no. Have I ever seen an alien spaceship? The answer is no. Have I ever seen anything that suggested to me that aliens were there? And the answer is yes. Okay, so I'm not saying that I've got proof, first-hand proof of aliens, no, but I do have the possibility there. So that's where I'm coming from. Now, as for what that proof is, so I was probably 22, 23, and I was at university at the time, and I was with some people, and we suddenly saw a very bright light in the sky, and we all looked up, and there was perhaps 6 or 7 of us, and we saw it shoot zigzaggedly, like, in a really erratic fashion, ridiculously quickly across the sky, and then it faded out of view. Now, it was a light. It didn't look like a spaceship. It looked like a dot, a bright dot, perhaps as big as my eyes look here. So that was what we saw. Now it was bright light, bright yellow, and it was a long time ago. That's more than 20 years ago. So that's my experience with something that I thought was probably alien. Now, what's an alternative explanation for that? Well, could have been a meteor. I don't think that's how meteors work, but maybe I've remembered it wrong. Maybe all of us. I'm no longer in conversation with any of those people that I saw there. But I mean, some of them didn't want to talk about it later, and they thought, well, thought they might have been drunk or whatever, or tired, or been looking at the screen too long, or wanting to see it, and different ones had different memories of it. So we didn't contact with them, but that's the first hand experience with aliens. That's the only time. I've never seen anything before or since. So that's the first hand thing. Now, if we look at the idea of aliens, now there are a number of people who say that they have seen aliens. Not me, I haven't. Some people say that they've been abducted by aliens. Now, if we're looking at numbers, we're talking about there's probably more than 5 million people out of the Earth's population. Now, you say the Earth's population is 7 billion, so you're talking about 1 in 1,000. That's a rough guide as to how many people would say that they have met aliens that's on Earth today. So 1 in 1,000. Now, we've paid attention, as I said in other videos, to things that are more remote than that, such as people being hermaphrodites. That's 1 in a million. So we're talking about 1 in 1,000 here, and yet we're ignoring this. We're ignoring a 1 in 1,000. We're paying attention to a 1 in a million, and that seems silly to me. I think that 1 in 1,000 is common enough that we can pay it some attention. So that's the first thing: is that they have had 1 in 1,000 people roughly. And perhaps that's not quite the right number. Maybe it's 1 in 2,000, 1 in 5,000 even. But we're still looking at a lot of people, and this has happened over a long period of time. It's not a recent event. This happened in ancient times. Ancient people talked about meeting aliens. So we've got a lot of evidence there. And now, when I say evidence, I'm not meaning that we have um, indisputable evidence. There's different levels of evidence. There's circumstantial evidence. There's evidence that can be disputed. You can dispute my first-hand account of seeing a light there. I'm not certain that's what it was. I think it's probably reasonably likely that that was an alien ship, but I don't know for certain. There was only a few of us there, and there could well be a military plane that's capable of doing that they've just hidden from the public. Um, Certainly, when I was older, when I lived in Alice Springs when I was 35. I saw a number of planes that were not shown about in the media that were military planes that were from the Pine Gap military installation, which I've never visited. But that's near Alice Springs, and they had planes that they never revealed what they could do, but we saw them. You would see them all the time, and they would do ridiculously amazing things. They're being test flown, often at low altitude. So the sound was so loud that you go deaf just about because they were so close to the ground. And yeah, they looked different to what you're supposed to look like. Some of them looked close to flying saucers. We knew they weren't because we knew that they were from the Pine Gap. And that's one explanation that has often been said, is that rather than being alien spaceships, that they were really military planes that were being tested, that they've kept secret from people. And certainly the ones that I saw in Alice Springs, that was what the situation was. And I'm sure that some of the sightings have been mixed up with military technology that has been kept a secret for very good reason, because we don't want the opposition, whoever we're against, to know about it. So it could well be that what I saw was military, and I just hasn't been revealed. Now we've also got a lot of video evidence, so it's not just first-hand testimony. There's also video evidence that you can see. You can look at it on YouTube. That there are numerous examples. People have taken videos that show what appear to be aliens, or at least evidence of aliens, of ships, of lights, of different things that appear to be fairly obviously aliens. Now you can look at that yourself. It's all over the place. There's thousands, probably millions of examples, not just in USA, not just in Australia, but all over the world. You've got it in Mexico, you've got it in South America, you've got it in China, you've got it in Africa. Everywhere in the world, they have numerous examples of these things. Now, that's that level of evidence, if you like. It's compelling, but it's not. There is room for denial. There's room for you to say, and the most common alternative is that it's military. Now that's that sort of thing. Now the other thing is, and I wanted to point this out, is that until we went to the moon, so that's 1969. Until then, so 1968, the common belief was that there were people on the moon. We no longer believe that. Most people don't believe that there's life on the moon anymore, but it was a very common, very, 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 very common thing. You can look at different science fiction authors, and they were all writing about life on the moon. J.R.R. Tolkien, who ended up writing Lord of the Rings, in some of his earlier work, he wrote about people being on the moon. His books weren't quite as good in those days. Lord of the Rings was much better than his other books, but he still wrote about it. Tintin, it's a comic that was writing about being on the moon as one of the episodes. No, I don't think Biggles did, but I think Gulliver from Gulliver's Travels went to the moon, and I've forgotten them all. But there were thousands of them because it was just commonly believed that there was life on the moon. Now we went to the moon, and then we said, "Well, there's no life there," and then we came back. So for that was what the official line was. Now some people will say that we didn't actually go to the moon. I think that the evidence is that we did, but we've got Buzz Aldrin, who was one of the 4 astronauts to go to the moon, who's said that they saw life on the moon. They saw life on the moon, and they were told not to look at it. You know, and look, the cover-up required is very small. Cover-up required for a moon landing is enormous, but the cover-up required to hide that they saw life on the moon is small. You have to have a cover-up of 3 people, literally, to deny that. But to deny going to the moon, you have to have a cover-up of 1 million. So I think we can dismiss the idea that it was a fake moon landing. But we can say that there is a good chance that they did see life on the moon and they were told not to look at it. I mean, if you look at Buzz Aldrin's commentary about it, he's made YouTube videos about it, and he'll say that they saw cities on the moon. Now, some people say Buzz Aldrin's just wanted to get some publicity and he's gone crazy and all that. But that's one aspect of it. The next one, of course, is Mars. Now, again, until we went to the moon, most people thought there was life on Mars. And nowadays we don't. We've sent a probe out there that says, oh, there's water. But the water was from 4 billion years ago. I don't know that we have the technology to know that something was 4 billion years ago. And I've seen some other things that say that, look, it was only perhaps 100 years ago. And there's also what appears to be several man-made, or at least not natural. Like there would have had to have been a creature of some kind that made certain things that are on there. Pyramid-looking structures, obelisks, things that look like buildings. Now, there's been that. There's the water theory, and so forth. And is there a possibility? I mean, are we on Mars, in every part of Mars all at once? The answer is no. So to hide it would be extremely easy, and it'd be extremely easy to hide life on the moon. I mean, there's been cartoons written. All you'd have to do, you got the Mars rover there. Life is right behind them. They just never turn around. Or if they turn around, you just blank the image for a second. That's how hard the conspiracy would be. I mean, when we look at the possibility of conspiracy theories, we've got to look at how difficult is it for them to lie. And if you're looking about life on Mars or life on the moon, it's very easy for them to lie. There wouldn't be much effort that they'd have to go to. It'd take minutes. It'd take one person. It's not difficult to deny it. But to deny the moon landing, to fake that, I mean, if we only went to the moon once, maybe you could have faked it, but we went to the moon a lot of times. And the people that were saying that it was fake, it started with the Science Fiction Writers Association because they were losing a lot of money because all their money was saying there's life on the moon. And then all these people are saying there's not. They lost everything. So the other part of it is that in previous beliefs, so before 1969, the main view of how aliens came to Earth was through a hole in space time or a hole in space. Balloon theory. There's different names for it, but the one I'm familiar with is balloon theory, which is basically you got a big balloon and it curves, and so at a certain space, thousands of miles away, billions of kilometers, thousands of light years, whatever, long, and other spots you're touching. So it's moving like that, and at the moments when it's touching, you can go from one spot from Mars to Earth instantly, or from the Moon to Earth instantly, or from Alpha Centauri to Earth instantly, or from somewhere so far away that we've never even seen it on a telescope to Earth instantly. And that was the theory that they had for aliens to come to Earth. And that was a theory that I'm not even sure, I believe it started in ancient Egypt, 7,000 years ago. So that was the belief at that time. It was followed in Greece. Greeks believed it. Albert Einstein didn't invent it, but he did base his theory of relativity, both the general and the specific, was based around the idea that space is curved and that at any moment in time, two parts of space that are a long way apart would be touching. He believed that. And that was what his whole theory was. He wasn't the only one believing it. That was the general scientific consensus at the time. It's not now, which is strange. When did we disprove this? I must have blinked and missed it. I've looked through as much as I can, and I haven't found any hint that that's ever been disproven. That we've ever proven that space is not curved. That balloon theory is false. That you can't have a magic gateway. So one of the things that Einstein did was that he didn't invent it, but he proved how we could create our own spot from Earth to another part of space. It's called the Rosen-Einstein Bridge. That was by himself and Nathan Rosen, and there was a third guy that helped, but didn't want his name put to it. His name was Boris Podolsky from Russia, I believe. That was I looked that up at one point, and then I've since forgotten his name. But yeah, so they weren't inventing the theory, which we now call wormholes, by the way. But the wormhole theory was not invented by Albert Einstein. He just proved that we could create our own. In other words, that if you look at Stargates, like the show, the movie Stargate, except without the little round things, because that seems a bit silly, but that you could create a Stargate effectively. And it's in Star Trek, where they go straight away. It's in Star Wars. It's in lots of science fiction, and it always was. It's not a new idea. And yeah, so he proved that it was possible to make your own. And what was that guy's name? The one in the wheelchair. Someone's going to kill me for not remembering his name offhand. But he proved that as well. He had a greater level of proof to it. And that's the thing, is that if that's possible, if you can have a gate between Earth and somewhere else, or two places, even if it went from Alpha Centauri to the moon, and then we flew from the moon to here. If you could do that, how easy is it for aliens to come here? How easy? They wouldn't. You could just walk through. So, and that's one thing, is that, as far as I know, that was proven very conclusively 100 years ago, between 1916, 1917, 1915, and that was proven before that, to a lesser level. So when we're looking at that, we're sort of saying, well, that's been proven, and yet we're now saying that it's not proven, and it's a bit dishonest. No, I know that we change our scientific principles and all that, but the other thing is that, most people probably have heard this concept of a Bermuda Triangle. Now, the Bermuda Triangle, and if you listen to a skeptic, they'll tell you, well, clearly a lot of the things that are said to have happened in the Bermuda Triangle happened somewhere else on Earth. Therefore, it's false. I deal with stupid arguments every so often. That's one of the dumbest I've heard. The Bermuda Triangle is not said to be one space. It's said to be, that's the main, most common area. If you believe that in the bent space thing, it changes where it is. So if you think of that as a gateway to another world, some of the time it'll be in the Bermuda Triangle, some of the time it'll be somewhere else. It might be over Australia one day, it might be in the South Pacific one day, it could be in Russia one day, it could be in China one day. It'll vary, because Earth is not the centre of the universe. Okay, so if you're a teddy bear and you're believing that disproves the Bermuda Triangle theory, you're neither a liar or you're stupid. It doesn't disprove it. I'm just going to. I can't believe that you're considering yourself to be intelligent, or that you've got any basis for that being considered to be a disproof. It's not a disproof. If you're going to disprove things like that, you've got to do better than that. That's ridiculous. Yeah, and so the thing is that the Bermuda Triangle concept, this is nothing. I read on Wikipedia that it only started in 1970. Wow, those people on Wikipedia sure are smart. I mean, Christopher Columbus talked about it. It was talked about in ancient Egypt. So it's been around for thousands of years, this idea. And for them to say that it's a new concept, it's two options. They're either liars or they're stupid. I think some of them are liars and some of them are idiots. But it's just not. There's no basis of reality surrounding it. So it's not a new idea. It's a very old idea. Now the other thing is, so we've got basically two ways that aliens could come to Earth. One is through, your world bridge, your wormhole. Albert Einstein didn't invent the word wormhole. He wasn't talking about black holes. He was talking about that. Wormholes are not through another dimension. That's a new idea. That's not what we've believed for thousands of years. We're not believing another dimension. We're believing space, not dimensions. I mean, there's been no conclusive evidence that there are any other dimensions. There are any alternate Earths. It's a theoretical concept that's really just imagination. I mean, if you went from here to, let's say, somewhere Alpha Centauri, that's not another. It's not another dimension. It's just somewhere else. We could get there directly if we wanted to. This is quicker. That's all it is. So we've got that option that either there's life on Mars or on the Moon, and we're lying about it, or even in somewhere else on our solar system, and then we're lying about it, or they just come directly, could even walk. So either way, we definitely have a possibility for alien life to come to Earth, and we've got easily we can see what's the conspiracy theory to hide what I'll call the Bermuda Triangle, the world bridges. How big a conspiracy does it take to hide that? There was only one person that was pushing for black hole theory. His name was John Archibald Wheeler. He's dead now. He's the only person pushing it. And I think that if you're sort of told that what we've known for thousands of years to be true, if you're told that that's stupid, you're taught in school, and you're told, well, we've got to believe this black hole theory, you're going to go along with it. And not everyone did. But, I mean, black hole theory has never been proven. We've never seen a black hole. But what we have seen, and we have got evidence of, is that there are people that have said, particularly around the Bermuda Triangle, that they have said that they have gone through something that matches this theory of the bending space. People have said that they were on planes, they were on ships, and they just walked through it to another place. And then they came back. Now, the other thing is that during World War II, we had a number of planes that said that they saw these holes when they were in the middle of fighting World War II. They thought, well, that's German technological engineering. It wasn't German. We found that out later, and we're like, oh, okay, what's going on here? We had a lot of planes go missing. They weren't shot down. They just went through these holes. And we're talking about 100, 200, a lot of people. And people saw them go missing. And it wasn't all over Bermuda. It was in different places. Of course, we had Amelia Earhart. She didn't go missing around Bermuda. She was missing quite a long way away, closer to Australia. And I think it was Lord Howe Island was around about where she was. I might have the name wrong, but it was fairly close to Australia. So we're not close to Bermuda here. So it's the other end of the world, essentially. But if you believe that Bermuda Triangle stays still, oh, I'm so clever. Look, Bermuda Triangle stays still. Amelia Earhart, she went missing somewhere else. You therefore disproved. Ho, 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 I'm a genius. Liar, idiot. One. Two if you want. It might be both. You could be a liar and an idiot. Amelia Earhart went missing. I mean, for Amelia Earhart's family, to have you laughing and being an idiot like that, how disrespectful are you? She's presumably dead. It was a long time ago. Even if she did survive, she'd probably be dead by now. I mean, how heartless are you to use that to excuse your ridiculous theory? And the pilot, the co-pilot, his name offhand, but so I mean, you're disrespectful to people that honestly gave those stories. American fighter pilots, British fighter pilots, German fighter pilots, all saying the same story. And we also have during World War II, a lot of UFOs were sighted. And they thought, like my little story in Alice Springs, they thought, oh, well, that's just military from the other side. And they later on proved they weren't. They're called Foo Fighters. I mean, the idea of UFOs was not necessarily guaranteeing they were aliens. It was saying, well, they might be from the opposition. They might be from some foreign power that we don't know about. That's the other thing. I don't know if people are aware of this whole concept of ancient aliens, which essentially says that most, if not all, gods that we worship are aliens, or were aliens. And this is, I mean, I can't travel back 6,000 years and prove that. But what I can do is I can go to a remote civilization which has no contact with people outside of their own. and look at how they reacted. How did they react? They treated them as gods. If you look at Captain Cook, Captain James Cook, the guy that first found a safe port in Australia at Botany Bay. So he did that in 1770, and to get the year right, 1777, 1779. I'm not sure of the exact year, but he went to Hawaii and he was treated as a god. Why was he treated as a god? Because he was white, and they weren't used to white people. And then they killed him. Now, they didn't kill him because they were jerks. I'm saying jerks to mean, I probably use some swear words there, but they didn't kill him because they've been jerks. They killed him because they believed he was a god. And they believed he was there at the wrong time. And therefore, they thought they were sending him back to the spirit world. And it's not because he was white, it was because they hadn't seen someone like that before. Australian Aboriginals, if we look at them, when they first had contact with Europeans, they treated them as gods. And I'm not just talking about James Cook. I'm talking about, when the Dutch went there, when the Portuguese went to Australia, when the Spanish went to Australia, before the British did. And of course, maybe I'll put it in another video, but there's a good chance that the Vikings went to Australia as well, perhaps 1200 AD, around about that time. And certainly there's circumstantial evidence to suggest that, and it matches up with what the Australian Aboriginals said. Now, if they did, they were treated as gods. If they didn't, well, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that suggests that they did. You've got Dreamtime stories from Australian Aboriginals, which I'll share with you, which talk about people coming that were unnaturally tall, unnaturally thin, and unnaturally white. They could have easily been Vikings. So, and we know that the Vikings travelled all around the world and that they pushed this idea that the world was flat when we already knew that the world was round. Perhaps they came to Australia, and Australia was the edge of the world. Makes sense. Australia's pretty tough. It would have been in those days. So anyway, so we know that that's how remote civilizations deal with more advanced civilizations. If you're talking about ancient Egypt 5,000 years ago, if they had met aliens who were more advanced than them, significantly more advanced than them, they would have been treated as gods. We know that they would have been. So this whole ancient alien theory, it has a lot of credibility. I think some people say, oh, but that's only for the ancient gods. Our modern view of gods in Christianity, in Islam, in Judaism, and in Hinduism and Buddhism couldn't possibly be ancient aliens. Well, why not? You consider yourself so advanced that 6,000 years ago, when your religion started, or 10,000 years ago for Hindus, that you consider that meeting aliens at that time, you would have known them to be aliens. And even today, and look, we're fairly advanced now. Even today, if we had an alien group that came in that was more advanced than us, significantly more advanced, and they told us that they were gods, would we believe them to be gods, or would we believe them to be aliens? Would we know the difference? Potentially, they're the same thing. And potentially the reason that they're scared of coming now is because we could kill them. I know we've seen whatever silly movies that Independence Day. I didn't mind Independence Day, the first one. I thought it was quite a good movie, but it was a bit America-centric, but other than that, it wasn't too bad. But when they came there, they were saying, oh, well, look, the species is so advanced that we can't hurt them. Well, really? Why not? Why couldn't a nuke wipe them out? Why couldn't you just shoot them and they'd die? I don't think that an advancement, if you look at what humans were like 6,000 years ago compared to now, are we harder to kill now? Not really. We have better weapons. And yeah, we've got armour and such we can use, and we can hide behind tanks and all that. But realistically, it's only our weapons that have really advanced that much. It's not really our defensive capabilities. Yeah, we've got armour, but most soldiers, you look at them when they're going around, they don't really wear much armour. The bullet's still going to kill them. And, a bomb's still going to kill them, an arrow would still kill them. So ancient time weapons would still have killed our modern people today. The weapons they used 10,000 years ago would still kill us today. and throwing a rock at someone will still kill you today. And it's perhaps a little bit harder to kill. So if you imagine a more advanced alien species, we can still kill them, and we're probably more likely to kill them now. You get a machine gun, you're going to kill aliens. You know, maybe they are a little bit stronger. And this is something, if we talk about a numbers game, so let's imagine that aliens are a little bit stronger, their weapons are a little bit better. 100 of them might be able to kill 500 of us, so they're really advanced. You go, that's probably an optimistic view from the aliens' point of view. 100 would kill 500. 100 of them is not going to wipe out our planet, not if they're on Earth at least. And that would make it a bit terrifying for them, because if you're going through that gateway, whatever it is, you're not going to be able to take many people. 100 maybe. You're not going to take 5 billion of them for 1 billion. How many of them would it take to be able to compete with our forces? Perhaps 1 billion, maybe 100 million. They're not going to be able to get those forces through. So the only alternative for them to be able to defeat us is to nuke us from space, if you like, to go from a long way away and drop massive bombs on us without coming to us, or at least massive viral bombs. And here we go to another related topic is, wouldn't that be a cataclysm? Wouldn't that be something that would wipe out most life on Earth and send us back to the Stone Age? And there is that theory that every 10,000 years, that sort of things happen, and that humanity has risen and fallen a lot of times. I've been hearing this theory quite a lot, and that once we get to a certain level of advancement, they're too scared to come here, so they wipe us out. If that's the theory, if that theory is true, if it is, and it might not be, but if it is, we want to be in contact with those aliens, because we want to be saying we're going to be on your level. We're not going to kill you. So if we are in contact with aliens, it's a good thing. It's making us safe from this cataclysm that presumably happens every 10,000 years. That is, if we assume the cataclysm is true, all that sort of stuff. And now, if there was aliens coming to Earth and we're in regular contact with them, we would want a united front. We would want a group of nations around the world all working together in clandestine operations to be able to have a united way. Now, who's doing that? Are we doing that now? Or do we have a United Nations? Oh, wait! It's called the United Nations. What is the United Nations? It's effectively a world government. And they don't have really any power to stop wars and all that, but they have big meetings all the time. And effectively, the 5 big nations in World War II are the 5 big nations in the United Nations. So USA, Britain, Russia, China, France. They're the 5 most powerful nations on Earth because they won World War II. And again, had World War II gone the other way, it probably would have still had a United Nations sort of situation, but we would have had different countries in power. World War II was a big deal. And World War II, by all reports, is when the UFO situation really picked up. So if we look at that, and we're looking at, and I had my Pearl Harbor thing there. So if we're looking at that from that point of view, that maybe United States government were contacted by these aliens saying, "Hey, guys, we need you to win. Into the war. Have 1,000 people die in Pearl Harbor. Because we need you to be our voice." Maybe that's what happened. I mean, I don't know. I've got no evidence for that, but I'm just saying that matches. Maybe that's what spurred on the whole Pearl Harbor situation. And if that's the case, I mean, I hope it's the case, really. Because if we're not contacting with aliens now, they're not going to come to Earth and fight us because we would win. So they're going to nuke us from orbit. Maybe they won't send big nukes. Maybe they don't want to completely wipe out the planet, but maybe they'll send a massive virus that'll kill most people. Even Stephen King theorised this sort of situation. Maybe they'll convince us to kill each other. A great world war. And either way, maybe we'll go from a population of 7 billion to a population of 7,000. Maybe that's what will happen. Or to 70,000 worldwide. Are you going to be one of those lucky ones? I'd hope I am. I'm in a fairly well protected area in Australia. We're one of the better parts of the world. We're probably one of the most likely places to survive such an attack. But we're still going to have most Australians die. And I'm currently in Melbourne. We're probably one of the worst places in Australia. When I was in Alice Springs, it was better. And there were some remote places which are probably going to have, a lot of them are going to survive. So, people in America are probably all going to be wiped out. People in England, people in Europe, people in North America. You look at where people are going to survive, or likely to survive. It's the places where they're neutral, where they're isolated, but no one cares. So I'm thinking Australia and Iceland and Greenland and Antarctica, places where nobody cares at all about you. And that's, might just end up being the ones that hide in bunkers 100 floors underground. Maybe they're the ones that survive. Maybe fallout shelters, game Fallout, or one of those apocalyptic games. But whatever the situation is, we don't want that to happen. And the best way to make sure that doesn't happen is for us to be trading with these aliens. Maybe we could threaten to bomb them instead of them bombing us. I don't know what the right diplomacy is. That's not my level. Not my level of expertise. But what I know is that if there is aliens that can come to Earth, we don't want to be sending them a welcome party to come here. They'll feel threatened. And we don't want them to think, well, let's just bomb them. And there's going to be that thought process. Because when we come across an alien, our first idea is to kill them and cut them open. And that's going to be their first idea with us too. And then we've got robots coming in, or plants, or all sorts of things. Why do we assume that alien life is going to be humanoid? It could be a plant. Plants have intelligence. They don't have a brain, but they're alive. They have some idea of what's going on. That was the idea of The Thing. That movie, The Thing, the book based on it was plants. The first one was called The Thing from Outer Space. I've seen it. Great movie, great concept. It had a plant. Came here, impersonated everyone, killed everyone. And that's, who knows, maybe they can do that. There's been a number of different theories about how they could kill us, but I think realistically, right now, we are strong. It's hard to imagine us getting much stronger as far as weaponry and defensive. And I suppose I'll look at this in 50 years and maybe we'll be a lot stronger, but I think we could kill aliens right now. I definitely think we could. I think we might not be able to do them one-on-one if they're more powerful, but we could do them 10-on-1, I reckon. Yeah, I think so. So I think that's the situation we're at, where it'd take 700 million of them to take on our 7 billion. 10-1. And that's against really strong aliens. And with that thing, unfortunately, that means that they're not going to want to fight us directly, and they're going to bomb us from outer space. It means a cataclysm. Which means sea levels rising and falling, continents looking different to what they look now. Things that are underwater now will be above water then, and vice versa. Maybe Atlantis will go back to being a little island again instead of that spot in the middle of the Sahara, the Ricach structure. I mean, that's been proven, by the way. Sorry, Wikipedia, you're wrong again. Geez, how often do you get it wrong, Wikipedia? Goodness gracious. But, I mean, that's been proven. There's not really any doubt about that. But I don't need to talk about it because other people have proven it. There's no doubt about it. So that's the thing, is that I don't want to have a cataclysm. I don't want to be, the chances of me surviving are the same chances of me winning next week's Test Lotto. 100 million to 1. That's it. I mean, Australia, so I'm more likely to survive than someone in Europe or in North America or in Asia. But still not a guarantee. And I'm on the coast. Makes it pretty tough. Um, I don't want to go through that. And even if I am the one that survives, I don't want to be, maybe I'm the only person in the whole of Melbourne that survives. If I do, it's almost worse than dying in some ways. It'd be terrible. We don't want to deal with that. So I'd rather just hope that aliens are here and that we're talking to them, and that's what the United Nations is really all about. And the fact that we've now got intelligence agencies all around the world, which we didn't really have before World War II, and they, in a lot of ways, are cooperating, hoping that they're cooperating as a more covert version of the United Nations. So you've got the public version and the private version. And if you think of the public version of the United Nations as all just, what we see, and the private version, the CIA, ASIO, all of those different people, and their main aim is to get a united front in talking to the aliens so that we avoid a cataclysm. Just imagine if that's true, if that's what their real aim is. Why do we think of them as bad people? Maybe that's why they all lie to us. Because that truth would be a very important truth for us. Maybe they don't want all of you idiots out there that believe whatever stupid things you're told to go out there and talk to aliens and stuff everything up and doom humanity. Maybe that's what it's about. Maybe that's what all these lies are about. But it's really just to make sure that only the smart people get to talk to aliens, and that it's intelligence tests. So if you're dumb enough to believe that Pearl Harbor was just Japan just showing the headlines, or that you believe that 9/11 was Al Qaeda, oh my goodness. If you're dumb enough to believe stuff like that, you don't get to talk to aliens. Maybe that's what the test is. Maybe that's saying you're a teddy bear, you don't get to talk to aliens. If you can figure it out, you do. So if anyone watching there from an intelligence agency, hello. I don't want to fake my own death to actually join you guys, but if you want me to talk to aliens, I can. All for it. Not, I might need to be trained up a bit, but there you go. All right, so there you go. And for all those people who are going to tell me that I'm an idiot, well, prove me wrong. Okay. I'm sure you're going to do that in some stupid way, but whatever. I'm not wrong. And there's theories could be a little bit wrong, but I'm not. I mean, this is not wrong. Yeah, I mean, I don't know for certain that aliens are on Earth. I haven't seen them. But I know that it's certainly within the realms of possibility, and that if they are, we want them to be on Earth. We want them to be here, not because we want to be enslaved by them, but because we don't. If they're here on Earth, that means we're safe from a cataclysm. If our intelligence agencies and the United Nations and all of them are talking to the aliens, that means we're safe. If they're not here, and we're not talking to aliens, and aliens exist, you better be hoping that you're one of those few people that survive, because there's going to be a cataclysm. So I hope that we're talking to aliens. I think we probably are. I think there's enough circumstantial evidence to suggest that, well, it makes more sense that we are than if we're not. I personally haven't seen them. If I had seen them, I wouldn't be able to make this video. But I'm just saying, I believe that we have. I believe that we are. I think that makes sense. I don't think we were. I think we started in World War II, during World War II. Possibly even that's related to Pearl Harbor. And I do think that USA is a leading country for talking to aliens. I think that they're probably, perhaps along with Russia, China, Britain, and France, that they're talking to aliens. Perhaps the other countries aren't so much. So, yeah, and I think there will, if that's right, I think there will come a time, perhaps in 50 years, when the aliens admit to it, they feel confident enough and comfortable enough with us, they say, hello, here we are, we're your friends. And if that's true, well, hello to any aliens that are out there. I mean, assuming that you're nice people, I'm happy to give you a chance. Obviously, I don't want you to come in here and kill me and impersonate me, but assuming that we can have something to talk about and be equal, I'm happy to give that a go. Okay, so that's my talk on aliens. Again, I'm not saying for certain that aliens are here. I'm not saying for certain that aliens could come here. But I'm saying that I think that all the evidence suggests that it's likely. So I think, and just for the record, I don't believe black holes exist or the Big Bang Theory. I can talk about that in another video, but I think they're false. So that's my talk on aliens. So, all right, so hello to everybody. If you don't believe in aliens, well, that's fine. If you haven't seen evidence, good for you. And that's fine. I'm not trying to tell you that I'm right, but the aliens are definitely here. But there are some things to consider in relation to that. Yeah, okay, so bye.